All of us reach a point in time where we are depleted and need to somehow find a way to reignite the fire within. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience, where we will venture into the heart of the human spirit. We'll discuss the art of reigniting our passion and strategies to stoke our enthusiasm. And now, here are your hosts, Natalie Davis and Pamela Cass.
Welcome back to the Reignite Resilience podcast. I am your co-host, Natalie Davis, and I really am happy to be here because technology has not been working in our favor today.
Yes.
And I continue to get kicked out of the show, and I'm not sure what's going on. But anyway, welcome, Pam. How are you?
I am fabulous. Take 3. We've got this this time. Yeah.
We could do it. You know what's humbling is that typically we are a one-take wonder, and now here we are.
You know what?
Technology is great until it's not, and I have no idea what it's doing. But
well, you know what? The weather has been weird. It looks like we've got a storm maybe brewing and coming in, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but we've got an incredible guest here today.
Yes.
So we are excited about that. And we are glad you're back, Natalie, because
I am
Mike and I were just hanging out chit-chatting, but we didn't want to, get all the juicy pieces.
I know. I was like, I want to talk to Mike too. Like, give it a minute. Like, let me get in there.
I know. So we were trying to talk about the weather and, just that type of stuff that not very significant. So
we were, thank you for buying me time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So
for our listeners, let them know, like, who's the mysterious Mike? Who are we talking about?
Oh, yes. So today we have with us Mike, and he lives in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin with his wife, Nori, and their 3 dogs. They are the proud parents of 2 adult children, Julia and Sam. After a successful career with IBM, Mike retired and now dedicates his time to Joey's Song, the nonprofit organization he founded in honor of his son, Joe. Following Joe's heartbreaking battle with epilepsy, Mike transformed unimaginable loss into a mission of hope. What began as a small fundraiser with family, friends, and a few musicians has grown into one of the country's most unique music-driven charity events, bringing together legendary artists and passionate supporters to fund epilepsy research and raise awareness. We are so honored to have you here, Mike, and so honored to be able to hear Joey's story and what has come from an unimaginable event to something that is impacting millions of people.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank you. And before we go into it, I just want to say that all the technical difficulties are just showing you guys how resilient you are. So you're living your mission. So there you go. But thank you for both of you for having me here. I always love the chance to talk about what we do. And one of the side benefits of all this is 15 years after he left us, I still get to talk about my son. So that's a pretty cool thing too. So I'm excited to take the time and tell you guys all about it.
Well, let's start with Joey. Let's start with his story.
Yeah. So Joe, like all 3 of our kids, was adopted. And all 3 of our kids were adopted from Guatemala. They are not biological siblings. Joe was the 3rd of those kids and came home in about 3 months after he came home. He had his first seizure. He was sitting on Grandpa's lap down in Chicago, and his aunt walked by and recognized what was going on. Fortunately, Grandma and Grandpa lived literally right across the street from Illinois Masonic and took him over there. And that was the beginning of a 4-year journey of some misdiagnosis and a lot of worrying and a lot of false leads, let's call it that, that eventually ended up with Joe leaving us just shy of his 5th birthday in 2010. He was diagnosed eventually after a couple years of misdiagnosis with something called Dravet syndromes. Now, epilepsy is a spectrum disorder, like a lot of it. There's not just one epilepsy. It's like cancer, right? There's not just one. There's lots of different things that cause it, and there's lots of different ways it manifests itself. And I'll do that real quick. So you can either be born with a deformity, which can cause epilepsy. You can have a chromosomal disorder, which is what Joe had, or a lot of our first responders and service people come back with epilepsy because a knock in the head can also cause it. So it's also a big issue within that first responder and service community as well. So Joe's was chromosomal. I will not even begin to try to explain it to you at a level other than that the three of us can understand, because I go any deeper and I start to babble endlessly. There's something in our brain called sodium channels, which is what moves the information around. And Joe's sodium channels didn't do what they were supposed to do. So that led to him having frequent seizures. And unfortunately, Dravet does not have effective treatments and cures, as about 30% of the people with epilepsy as well don't have that. But so it made Joe nonverbal, and he was going to need 24/7 care. The prognosis wasn't good, but he was an extremely happy kid considering all the curveballs that life threw at him. And he is the inspiration for what we do, not just in need, but in concept, because one of the things Joe loved to do was sing and dance, even if it was in his own unique way. If you were in the room with Joe and Teletubbies came on or Elmo came on, it was his mission to make sure that everybody in the room was up, standing up and dancing, even if you were just doing a little bopping around. And he was not happy until everyone was doing that. So when it came time to figure out a way to raise some money, putting on events where people sing and dance sure seemed like a pretty solid fit for that. And then the connection to the name Joey Song is Joe could sing Elmo's song. So when it came time to name the charity, we had to name it Joey's Song. So
Joey's song.
that's Joe's story. And he went through more than most of us go through in our lifetime, more ambulance trips than any of us do, and more hours and days in the PICU than most of us do. Somehow that kid was always laughing and smiling. So,
innocence of a child.
Yeah. If your life is dedicated to making people happy and singing and dancing, no matter what afflictions you have, you've got it figured out. Joe understood the assignment.
Love it.
I can only imagine the things that are going through a child's mind, right, at that time, because it's, we're not sure what's going on. Let's do additional testing. And it's all the adult language and discussion and talk, right? And all the while, the child is the one that is experiencing it. So Joe is the one that is experiencing these things while the adults are trying to figure it out.
Right.
Yes.
And because he was nonverbal, he couldn't explain. One of the things that caused the times when Joe was not happy was when he couldn't communicate, because we don't know, none of us know where his brain was otherwise, but the fact that he understood music and knew a lot of what was going on around him. And so when he would get frustrated, it's because I think his brain or his being wanted to tell us, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm thirsty, but he couldn't do it. And that would be very frustrating for him as well when you can't, articulate that. So, but that was really the only time when he was not, very joyous person. And maybe some of that confusion or lack of understanding what was going on was probably helpful, because he didn't know the severity of some of the stuff that was going on too.
That innocence,
Right.
No.
Absolutely.
Right.
Wow.
And the creation of Joey's Song, tell us a little bit about your vision. What did you have in mind as this started to come together, and who were the brilliant minds that made it a thing?
Yeah.
Who actually
I
brought it to life?
had no grand plan, to be honest with you. And I think that's the secret of it, right? If we talk a little bit later about how to cope with things and I think having a goal as opposed to a vision is the better way to do it. The goal is to try to raise as much money as you can. What we say in Joey's Song is we're here to help the next family, right? Somebody is sitting in a neurologist's office right now with a child on their lap, and they're getting a diagnosis they don't understand, that they can't comprehend, and has them wondering what in the heck the future is going to hold. So they need to know that there's some people out there, a community that's fighting for them. That's really what we set out to do. I did not work in the music business for my adult life, but I did back in college, way back in the 80s. So you can do the math with how old I am. Yeah. And So I did have some friends. There's one we'll talk about a little bit later. But I, believe it or not, despite the long hair and everything, I worked at IBM for almost all of my life. So I had really short hair and wore white shirts and blue suits and power ties, the whole bit. Now I just get to be me. But uh, it was a logical fit. We had to do something, right? We had to do something. If I go back to some of those first interviews that I did when we were trying to raise, all I said is, boy, if we could write a $500 check to the Epilepsy Foundation, that would be great.
Yeah.
But what we did was we followed the breadcrumbs as opposed to saying this is the path and it's going to be this and I think that's when you fail. I mean, having a plan is always good. Don't get me wrong, but saying it must be this or it's going to be this and it's going to work this way and it's going to go that way. I don't think that sets you up for success, at least in what we were trying to do, because nobody's done what we're doing before. There's no concerts like this. We'll talk a little bit about what makes the actual events unique. We just kind of went with it. And I can tell you a couple stories. It was literally serendipity a couple times of, hey, happy coincidences that let us do that. So it was really out of a need to do something after he left us and a need to try to help. And that's what led to it. And then Joe led us into it with the singing and dancing. And then I just found out how great the artist community is and how wonderful people that their job is to tell you emotions and help you feel emotions, which is what artists do, whether they're singers or poets or painters or writers. Their whole job is to make you feel something.
Yeah.
When you pull those people in and say, let's feel this together and let's really help people understand, pretty amazing what they'll do.
Yeah. Wow.
I love that.
Yeah.
When you have, like you said, Mike, like having a plan is wonderful. I
Yeah.
am always a big believer of like leaving some room for what I like to call the magic, like those serendipitous moments that you just mentioned. What are some of those stories? Those initial moments where you're like, huh, this seems to be coming together so smoothly
Yeah.
without like an end goal plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the biggest literally aha moment. So the person that I was mentioning a little bit earlier that I knew from my old days is a gentleman called Butch Vig. And Butch is a Grammy-winning producer. He produced Nirvana's Nevermind and Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream and Green Day and Sonic Youth and blah, blah, blah. Amongst the Grammys, he won one for producing Sir Paul McCartney. So if you're producing Paul, you're the toppermost of the poppermost, right? You've already made it. So Butch and I knew each other back in college, back in the 80s. He went on to become rich and famous. I went on to become none of those things. And we reconnected once I started Joey's song through a mutual friend. And so Butch has Duke Erickson is the guitarist. He also has his band Garbage. I won't sing any Garbage songs for you, but you would know him if I sang them. And a couple other have a throwaway band. They call themselves the Know-It-All Boyfriends. And basically it's a chance for them to screw around and have fun. So when Butch and I reconnected, he said, what can I do to help? I said, we call it the KIAB, Know-It-All Boyfriends. Bring the KIAB to Madison and play a show. And he said, great, let's do that. So, of course, he's busy all the time touring and recording. When he's not recording and touring his own band, he's producing other people's records and so on. But we set up a time and they came back to Madison, which is where Butch and the gang were from. And here's where the magic happened. So it's about 3 days before the show. And all of a sudden, my phone is going off the hook. It's like people, who's coming? Who's playing? And I'm like, I don't know. I would look at the poster. Well, it turns out that Butch had done an interview with one of the local columnists, and having his best P.T. Barnum hat on, he said, you never know who's going to show up at a Know-It-All Boyfriend show. So in people's mind is Dave Grohl going to show up? Is Billy Corgan going to show up? Billy Joe Armstrong going to show up? Is Paul going to show up, right? He was just trying to sell me tickets. So the show goes on. We're after the show. Sitting outside. It was still September in Wisconsin when you could still sit outside and drink a beer. And we were having a beer and I told him about that because we didn't, once that week starts, you barely talk. Everybody's off running around doing their stuff.
Right.
And I told him that story. I said, man, you cost me a couple hours. And we were both tired and maybe had one or two too many beers in us. And we were kind of sitting there staring at the ground for a second. And I think both at the same time, we looked at each other and went, that's a really good idea, is let's have the KIAB serve as a house band and invite other people to come in
Oh,
and sing. So that was not the plan. That was not what we
yeah.
set out to do.
Oh,
But that's how I'm able to have people from Cheap Trick and
yeah.
Guns N' Roses and the Goo Goo Dolls and the
Yeah.
Bangles and the Go-Go's and Eve Six and, blah, 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 is because
Yes.
I asked them to come to Madison, not to put on a full show, but to just come and be part of this ensemble cast.
Mm,
But that was not even when it
yeah.
was happening wasn't part of the plan because Butch and I were too wrapped up in what we were doing to figure that out. So that's an example of that. And then it led to the other things, which has led to this kind of best world's greatest live jukebox concept that we've got going as well. But that's the perfect example of never set out to do this, and the fates just kind of, led us there by the nose, going, get over here and do something smart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
you got to do this. Oh my gosh. Absolutely incredible. And you had such a passion for what you were wanting to achieve that
Right.
I think just things started to manifest because
Yeah. It,
it'll eventually happen.
well,
Yeah.
I think so too. And people, whether they're ticket buyers or artists, can feel that.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to humble brag here, but there's some genuineness to this because Joey's
Yeah.
song is 100% volunteer. I don't take a
Yeah.
salary. We have no paid staff. For people watching on video, you're looking at Joey's Song International Headquarters, which is my basement in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Um, and all those artists don't take a penny to come and play, right? So,
Oh,
these people that get six figures to go and sing
yeah.
for 45 minutes come and do that. So there's a genuineness. The only people that are profiting from this are the people that will benefit from a cure, right? You're not paying anybody's
Totally.
mortgage. You're not paying anybody's salary. You're not doing
Yeah.
any of that stuff. And I just think that there's a karma to that everybody can feel. And let's be honest, when your phrase is, we'd like to stop kids from dying,
Yeah.
that's a relatively
Powerful.
powerful argument that people will at least
Yeah.
listen. They may not be able to help, but they'll at least
They'll
listen. And then you
listen.
layer on top of that, oh, we've got some Hall of Famers and some Grammy winners and everybody.
Yeah.
It snowballs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Oh, wow.
I
Yeah.
love that. Mike, as you're sitting there, like just wrapping up that first event and like, that's it. This is how we're building it out. Did you recognize in that moment what you were creating? Could you
No,
see it?
no,
Oh,
no, no. It was, I didn't know whether it was going to be a one-off, whether we were going to do more. Um, I didn't know. And again, I think maybe that's why we were okay. It was like, all right, let's see where this goes now. And without turning this into a 10-part TED talk on the music business, um, the music business back in 2010 was very different than it is now. It was
Mm,
just when people stopped paying for music, right? I'm never going to buy a CD again. I'm just going to stream it for
Yeah.
0.007 cents. And the
yes.
dynamics of it all changed. And we could do a 10-part series on that and what it's done to
Yeah.
artists. Um, so really, and then COVID hit, the world
Mhm.
shut down for a year. Yeah. Hey, what do you do? Live events? Oh yeah, nobody can be in the same room with anybody else for a year and a half.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Mm-mm.
no, had no idea where it was going. And
Yeah.
again, I think that's why I knew we were talking to people, speaking to
Mhm.
people, not talking to people. I knew that our message was getting through, and that was so I knew we had a way to go with it. And I knew enough musicians to know that if I could get to them,
Yeah.
they'd listen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Oh my
Mm.
gosh. Can we shift the focus back to the family during this
Sure,
time as well,
Yeah.
right? 'Cause you've got
sure.
the kids and you and your wife, and what is that space like as you all
Yeah,
are building something great, and at the same time processing
yeah.
the
Lots.
shift and the change? Yes, the
Yeah,
law.
so Julia and Sam would have been 10 and 8 when their
Okay.
brother died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know exactly what they did or didn't. I mean, they knew he was dead, and you know what death is at that point, but I don't know how
Yeah.
much you know what that is.
Right.
Um, so the first thing I need to say on all this is losing a child is one of the biggest causes of marital breakups that there are, if you look at those statistics. So, and Nori and I are still together. She's upstairs right now with my daughter cooking dinner.
Wow.
And so that's the flag in the ground right there. If nothing else, that, we had, or I could go down a path here. I'll go down it real quick and then when you go through building your family through adoption, like we did, there's some extra steps in that people that do it biologically don't go through. And there's some extra choices you make and extra commitments you make.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think knowing Nori, my wife's name is Nori, knowing Nori and I, even if we despised each other, we probably would have stayed together for the kids just because of, look at all they've gone through, right? My kids are all from Guatemala. Fortunately, their mom is Puerto Rican, but they don't look like me at all. So one quick story, when they were younger and I took them, we had to go to the drugstore or something, and we were standing in the checkout. The lady at the drugstore looked up and said, "Are you running errands with Grandpa today?" So anyway, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. But anyway, so Nori and I are two very different people, which is that whole, opposites attract kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a German from Wisconsin who's, we will get through this and we will put our head down and we will start a charity, right? My wife is a Latina and she's very emotional and wears her emotions on her sleeve. And and that's good too. There's no owner's manual on this. As long as you're not doing yourself or anybody else harm, there's no right or wrong way to process grief and come through the other end.
Yeah.
Right.
And having those two kids at that age, we both threw ourselves into making sure that they're both wonderful human beings. My daughter is getting her master's degree in kinesiology and is going to be a physical therapist. And my son graduated with a music degree from Beloit and is trying to figure out how he's going to make a living doing that. That's another 10-part TED Talk. But he's got a very supportive set of parents. So, but we knew that what was most important was those two. And when you have a common goal like that, it kept the it was making sure they made it out of the house in the morning to school. I was fortunate in my time with IBM, I worked from home. So I was able to be home when they came home, back before they think you're silly and stupid, right? Which happens in the teenage years. But, every day they'd come home, they'd tell me about their day, what happened on the playground, what art project did you do? All of those things. That all helped. You ask about the home life. That all helped because while Nori and I were individually dealing with it in very different ways, that we had that center point that was the most important thing 20-fold over anything else we did, is making sure that those two had all the advantages they could have.
Yeah. You created that certainty in a very uncertain time.
Yeah. In what would be uncertain under any circumstances, even more so.
Yeah.
Right.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. How involved are they in Joey's song?
Yeah. My wife doesn't have much involvement. One of the things besides giving the money to epilepsy research, we also take a small portion every year. There's a school down in Guatemala, which again is where my kids are from and Joe is from, for special needs kids. And every year they have a capital project or two. So we make sure some of that money goes down there and she helps me with that. My son performs with all these amazing rock and roll Hall of Famers and Grammy winners. Yes, I keep reminding him he's going to have to go back to playing coffee houses where the busboys are throwing plates into the, thing. And but it's pretty much my thing, because I'm retired and I have the time and I have the passion and they're as involved as they want to be, but they've got their stuff, right? Julia's she's in one more year to go in her master's degree and Sam's got his stuff, but they ask me about it all the time and I don't force them into it. If they wanted to do more, believe me, I got plenty they can do. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned that the entire team that puts the event on, all volunteers that come together.
Yep.
Tell us about building the team, because it didn't start out the size that it is now, with the impact that it has now.
Yeah. So honestly, It came from every year after the show doing the, okay, what could we have done better? Okay. And then you find out, and then you ask people, oh, we need somebody to manage this. And, there's enough. The good thing about being in your 60s, actually, to be really honest with you, today is my birthday. I turned 65 today. So
Happy
birthday!
yes.
Huge.
Is when you have a group of friends in their 60s, people have a lot more free time than they did when they're in their 40s, right?
Yes.
And so it was really a matter of asking people, I need somebody to help me. And I know who could do what, right? Almost all the volunteers are friends, friends or acquaintances kind of stuff. And I got one neighbor who I knew who handles all of the transportation, getting the artists from the airport to the hotel and back, because I know that's his kind of stuff. I got another neighbor that helps with the merchandise because I know so you match people with their personalities. And then again, they all went through Joe's illness and everything with us. So they're all part of it too. And the people are good if you give them a chance to be,
I love it.
I love that you have an entire community that's willing to raise their hand to say, yes, I will volunteer my time, talent, treasure, what have you, and pour into this cause.
It's funny. It's funny. We do a video every year of the artists, and we do interviews with them. And one of the first times we started having artists of larger note, let's say, come and we were doing interviews. One of them said specifically that. She said, this is crazy. The guy doing this is Mike's neighbor, and the guy doing that is who he went to college with. And I said, that's just Wisconsin. That has nothing to do with me.
Everybody knows everybody.
That's just Wisconsin. They talk about Wisconsin nice. Well, that's just it. That's, she happens to be from Boston, and not that people from Boston aren't great, but maybe it's not quite an East Coast thing like it is in the Midwest. But there's actually one of our year-end videos. Her name is Gail Greenwood, and she's a bass player in Belly and L7 and a couple other famous bands. And that she says that, she goes, it's just crazy, Mike's. So everybody raises their hand, and what can I do? And we seem to pull it together.
It speaks volumes, Mike. It really, it truly does.
Thank you for joining us today on the Reignite Resilience podcast. We hope you had some aha moments and learned a few new real-life ideas to fuel the flames of passion. Please subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like or download your favorite episodes, and of course, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Reignite Resilience.
Reignite Resilience family, we are so excited to share with you that the book, The Quiet Gift, A Journey of Self-Worth and Resilience, is now available on audiobook at Amazon. Make sure that you check the link in the show notes so that you can click on that and download a copy of the audiobook. This is an amazing story written by Pam as a part of the Red Journal series and narrated by Kristen Aiken-Salata. So we hope you enjoy. Until next time, we'll see you soon.